All right, good evening, everybody. We still have some people who are in the waiting room and are transitioning in. Really excited to welcome you to the first educational webinar series of 2025 for United Spinal Association, the Greater Philadelphia chapter. Tonight, we have a multitude of presenters, and they're here to talk about exploring wearable technology for advancing health and function in individuals with spinal cord injury. So one of our presenters, Alexandra Kanori, just completed her PhD in neuromotor science at Temple University. During her studies, she focused on understanding the sensory motor mechanisms of chronic pain in spinal cord injury and how physical activity and virtual reality impact chronic pain. Currently, she is a postdoctoral research fellow at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai and investigating the effects of neuromodulatory stimulation on chronic pain through several novel neurotechnologies. We also tonight have with us Rachel Fitzpatrick. Rachel earned a master's degree in the neuromotor science program at Temple in 2022. When she is not in the lab or classroom, she works as a fitness trainer. She is interested in the effects that different forms of exercise have on rehabilitation and is currently working on a National Institute of Health funded research project that aims to increase physical activity of individuals with spinal cord injury in the community. We also have Shiv Hiramut with us. He is an associate professor at the Department of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, College of Public Health, and is also the director of the Personal Health Informatics and Rehabilitation Engineering Laboratory at Temple University. His research focuses on studying the health and physical activity patterns of people with disabilities in the community through wearable sensors and smartphone-based technologies. His research focuses on studying health and physical activity patterns of people with disabilities, and I read the same sentence over, my apologies. Anyway, I would like to welcome all three of our presenters here tonight. And with that, we will get our first webinar started.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for the introduction. And the first, so just to, I'm just going to talk about the overview and the title slide, and then I'll give it to Alex to talk about her work. So the title of the study or the presentation we have today is Exploring Wearable Technology for Advancing Health and Function in Individuals with Spinal Cord Injury. There are three presenters today, including Alex, Rachel, and myself. The overview, we are going to talk in three parts. The first one is a pilot study. It's how we have used, and this is Alex and her doctoral dissertation work, use of wearable technology to study health and function in individuals with spinal cord injury, specifically the relationships with pain and physical activity. And the second part is also a study. It's a longitudinal study, and this is a presentation that I'll be presenting today, but the work has been done by two of the doctoral students, Tessa Johnson and Cole Hagan, and it's about functional recovery of individuals with spinal cord injury in the community. The third part, this is a study that Rachel is currently running called Use of Wearable Technology to Provide an Intervention. This is a physical activity intervention study. It's a phase 2 randomized control trial. We are presenting an overview of what the study is about, but we will not be presenting the results of the third one because it's a phase 2 randomized control trial where we present the results once the trial is complete. So with that, I think I'll give Alex the floor, the virtual floor. And Alex, just let me know when you would like me to advance the slides.
Thank you, Shiv. So today I'll be talking about the differential relationships between physical activity and pain phenotypes. Next slide, please. So physical activity is often found to improve chronic pain in the general population and also in individuals with spinal cord injury. But there have been some studies where the more physical activity shows worsening pain or no changes at all. So one of the main purposes of this study was to fill a gap in knowledge around what happens when you stratify the pain types. So you're looking at nociceptive pain and neuropathic pain separately. One thing that we do know is that long-term, consistent, and individualized physical activity is most likely to improve pain. And moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity, or MVPA, is most strongly associated with pain, whereas lighter intensity physical activity, activities where you might just be moving your hand a little bit, something like writing or typing, is not as associated with pain and doesn't have the same changes in pain associated with it. So just to give a definition of chronic pain, generally it's 3 months or more of having a pain that persists. And one of the most important components about being chronic is that there's no actual evidence of tissue damage. It is just a pain that is persistent and doesn't have any known cause to it that is current and ongoing. So this study focused on 2 different chronic pain phenotypes. 70% of people with SCI have some sort of chronic pain, and it's most often categorized as either nociceptive or neuropathic. Nociceptive pain is caused by tissue damage. So this would be things like a shoulder injury or a wrist injury. And neuropathic pain is caused by damage to the nervous system. So a lot of times this is seen as pain below or at the level of injury where there is no other sensation, and it's a nerve type pain. So the objective of this study was to look at these different types of pain and how each one responds to moderate to vigorous physical activity in individuals with spinal cord injury. And we had a few different hypotheses here. The first one was that looking at just neuropathic pain, there will be an inverse relationship with MVPA, meaning that the more activity somebody does, the lower their pain levels will be if it's neuropathic pain. With nociceptive pain, we thought the exact opposite. We thought that the more physical activity you do, the worse a nociceptive type pain will be. And lastly, we thought that the interaction between both of these types of pain when looked at together would make a curvy linear relationship with MVPA. The study population was people who were 18 to 75 years old, had a diagnosis of SCI at least 6 months prior, experienced chronic pain for a duration of at least 6 months, were functionally able to self-propel a manual wheelchair. And this was mainly just a general criterion so that everybody had a somewhat similar level of function so that the actigraph devices that we were using could be standardized and also medically stable. And the exclusion criteria was any condition in which physical activity might be medically contraindicated. The study design and protocol. This was a prospective observational repeated measure study. So the first thing we would do is give an accelerometer and instruct the participant how to use them. This was a device that goes on your wrist. It's very similar to some of the smart watches that I'm sure everyone's familiar with. It did not have the same interactive interface that some of the Apple Watches and things have, but it was very good on battery life, which is why we chose this device. And then in addition to that, participants would record their own measures of self-reported MVPA, and we would compare that to the accelerometer data, and then also to a daily pain intensity rating. And this all happened in the community, and we collected this for 1 week. So the moderate to vigorous physical activity was measured with the actigraph. And then after we had those initial raw readings, what we would do is put it through a personalized algorithm and figure out what each participant's threshold for MVPA is. So in other words, what that means is we would look at how much total activity they had, and then based on different patterns, how much of that was moderate to vigorous for that person specifically, instead of using a single value for all participants. We collected, we also collected pain phenotype and intensity. And when we collected pain, we collected the primary pain and the secondary pain, as most people had more than one pain. We also collected some other measures, including kinesiophobia, pain catastrophizing, and pain interference. So this is a breakdown of some of the demographics of our participants. The one thing I want to point out here is that if you look at the group with neuropathic pain, they had much higher pain interference, pain catastrophizing, depression, and subjective quality of life was about the same. But the other three measures were much higher in the neuropathic group than the nociceptive group. It wasn't a significant change in any of them, but just something to note that we'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. Our main results were that neuropathic pain and MVPA are negatively correlated. This is what we had hypothesized. So the more activity a person was doing, the lower their neuropathic pain would be. Whereas in nociceptive pain, there was no correlation between the amount of MVPA and the amount of pain. So looking a little bit further, we analyzed each individual participant in both groups to look at the relationships. And everyone in the group with neuropathic pain showed a negative correlation between MVPA and their pain intensity. However, in the group with nociceptive pain, there were three people who showed a decrease, and there were 4 people who showed an increase. So it was pretty evenly split, that some people's pain got worse with more physical activity, and some people's pain got better with more physical activity, which was a very interesting finding. So then when we looked at both of them combined, what we expected to see was that there'd be a curvy linear relationship showing some people getting worse and some people getting better. And that would account for both the neuropathic and nociceptive pains, where one gets better with physical activity and one gets worse with physical activity. But what we actually found was that neuropathic pain fit the curvy linear relationship independently, and nociceptive pain did not fit into the relationship at all. So for our discussion, we found that the majority of participants who reported more than one pain said that the nociceptive pain was secondary. So what this meant is that the neuropathic pain was seen as more severe, and individuals with both neuropathic and nociceptive pain are more likely to prioritize wanting to reduce the neuropathic pain over the nociceptive pain. It's common to see concurrent pain in individuals with SCI, which is why it's very important to have a nuanced approach and to come up with recommendations for MVPA levels that can manage overall pain. So it won't be making one type of pain worse, and it will be getting the most benefit for neuropathic pain. So one consideration for that would be the type of MVPA that's prescribed. When we're looking at neuropathic pain, the benefits can be with any type of exercise or any type of physical activity. However, if there is nociceptive pain, there's benefits more so from strength-specific resistance training than any type of activity. And this is because some activities might lead to an overuse injury or might actually contribute to the pain and make it worse. So making that recommendation of not only the types of activities that should be done, but also the dosage, which is the next point, I think. Yes. So the dosage of MBPA is also important, and we can come up with personalized thresholds to determine what that dosage should be. And that's the best way to maximize the benefits in terms of pain modulation when we're looking at avoiding overuse while getting the maximal benefit from doing the proper amount of exercise to manage pain.
Thanks, Alex. So I'm going to cover the second study, and this is similar in terms of what technology is used, but at the same time, it's a little different in terms of where the testing happened. Now, if you have questions, if you have burning questions, you can ask during the presentation. If you have questions that you can hold on till the end, then all three of us can answer those questions. Um, so in this particular study, what we were using was we were using sensors to capture upper extremity function in individuals with cervical level spinal cord injury. And as we know, upper extremity function is very important in individuals with spinal cord injury, and especially in individuals who suffer cervical level spinal cord injury. And it's one of the major priorities for these individuals. Upper extremity impairments limit independence and quality of life. Upper extremity assessments are typically done infrequent and fail to provide daily usage information. So these are performed when you are in an inpatient rehab or when you're at the outpatient clinic, but we do not know how often someone uses their hand or arm in the community on a regular basis. So that's the infrequent part with respect to clinical measures. Wearable technology and machine learning algorithms can enable us to continuously measure or monitor upper extremity movement. So in this study, we tried to use a wearable technology along with a clinical measure to capture this information. So the procedures that were used in this study included acute cases or individuals who were at the McGee Rehabilitation Facility from an inpatient rehabilitation facility. And also we recruited veterans with chronic injury from the Philadelphia VA Medical Center. Now, individuals who took part in the inpatient rehabilitation facility, some of them also provided us data once they were discharged and they were 3 months post-injury in the community. So we could get an idea of what the recovery patterns looked like or what their sensor patterns looked like in the community. The testing involved baseline testing that's using a test that's designed by Dr. Ralph Marino at the Jefferson Hospital. And this was to capture the capacity for upper extremity test and assessment of upper extremity function with concurrent sensor recording using actigraph. This is the same device that Alex used in her study to capture physical activity. The post-testing was to repeat the QT test and sensor assessment after 4 weeks. We also collected data during the 4-week period to understand how the daily usage occurred. But today, I'm just presenting the comparison between the sensor data and the clinical measures that we captured. So this is the actigraph sensor that Alex showed. This was worn on the dominant wrist, and this is the type of information it can collect. So as you can see here in these plots, if someone's doing an arm activity, which is called the side, you have certain signatures in the sensor data. If you're doing hand activity, they have slightly different signatures. And depending on the wrist orientation, these axes can flip. So the black, the gray, and the red can change based on how the individual is holding their wrist and rotating and doing certain activities. So here is a video from Tess, who is the lead PhD student running the study, and Cole, who runs the machine learning algorithms on the study. So I'm going to play it out. Sorry, just a second.
In the US, there are about 300,000 individuals with spinal cord injury, and 60% of this population are individuals who have cervical level injuries, which leads to tetraplegia. So for them, upper extremity use and hand function is a leading priority. These types of research studies can help individuals with cervical level spinal cord injury improve their health and function over time. Clinicians will be able to better identify what treatment that I provided or that they provided led to certain types of changes in the real world. So those types of feedback that they can receive through this information or through these types of sensors can help improve the rehabilitation they are provided.
And since then, we have collected data both in the inpatient rehabilitation facility and the community. And the objectives of this study was to identify sensor-based features. So when we say features, these are like the signatures that are present in the sensors or certain types of characteristics that we can obtain from the sensor data that relate to arm and hand function. We also wanted to develop and validate personalized machine learning algorithms for prediction of upper extremity use. What that means is the same activity that can be done by two different individuals in two different ways. So how can we develop algorithms or models that can capture that difference between the two individuals and try to predict the upper extremity use? So as of today, what I'm presenting here is from 33 participants, but we have completed 54 participants in this study. And so we had male, female, we had 33 male, 31 males participants, 2 females participants. We had individuals with acute, chronic, both traumatic and non-traumatic injury, high, low, that's within the cervical level injury, that's high level cervical level injury and low level cervical level injury. And the others were the different AIS categories that the participants reported. The baseline data, what it showed us is that the type of feature, so this is basically something called the number of peaks. Number of peaks is how many times that sensor signal identifies the counting of the number of peaks that can occur in a signal. And that information was for the hand. So you can see that certain types of features showed up for the hand and certain other types of features showed up for the arm or the side. So that distinct relationship kind of helped us identify that if we know that someone's values on these are higher, it means that they are doing more hand type of activities versus these features showing up higher, then we know that they're doing arm type of activities. So to discuss the outcome of the features part of it, the distinct features were able to be correlated with hand and arm function as measured by the QT, that's the clinical test at baseline and follow-up. There were no overlapping features. Again, this might change as more data gets analyzed and when manuscripts are written. However, the specificity of sensor data to functional categories is important. sensor data could be used to monitor function and longitudinal recovery. So not only can we track at the baseline, but also we can do it at the 4-week mark. The other part, which is the machine learning model, in this case, we use something called light gradient boosting machine learning model that was selected for these types of development. And just to generally provide how the predictive performance and generalizability was about 86.9%. So we could predict with 87% accuracy when they use their arm versus hand. And also we are able to predict non-upper extremity use with 86% accuracy. So there are time domain features such as minimum and maximum. These are called statistical characteristics of the signals across all participants emerged as critical determinants of model performance. To discuss the personalized algorithm parts of the research, personalized models of wearable sensor data can identify critical movement parts of upper extremity use during daily activities in individuals with cervical spinal cord injury. These models can highlight how much and for what activities individuals use their upper extremity. These can also help determine whether improvements from interventions translate into increased upper extremity use in daily life. So that's the take-home message from this, was that we can use, just like many of the individuals in the community and many of our participants and folks we work with also use these types of devices like Apple Watch or Android watches. These types of research algorithms that we are building or features can eventually be integrated in those types of wearable devices to make them more accessible in terms of them tracking rehabilitation improvements or other daily use improvements, depending on what the individuals wish to gain out of that, those types of devices. So the next part is study 3. This is the current study that Rachel is running. So I'm going to give her the platform here. Rachel, keep me posted if and when you need me to advance the slides. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to be quickly talking about the study that we are currently recruiting for and running. So the title is mHealth-based just-in-time adaptive intervention to improve the physical activity levels of individuals with SCI. So physical inactivity is a significant health challenge for individuals with spinal cord injuries. And regular physical activity can improve health outcomes and overall quality of life. So our goal with the JITI, or just-in-time adaptive intervention, is to use physical activity tracking combined with mobile health to deliver timely feedback that will hopefully just offer a little bit of extra motivation to meet physical activity goals. So our study has 3 main objectives. So the first one is we want to investigate how combining JITI with a web-based physical activity program affects moderate intensity physical activity levels in individuals with spinal cord injuries. Secondly, we want to understand how timely feedback helps improve activity levels within the first 2 hours after a JITI reminder. And then finally, we want to identify specific subgroups of people who might be more likely to benefit from these types of interventions. So for methods, this study is using a randomized control trial with micro-randomized trial components. Our goal for the study is to get 196 participants, and they'll be randomized into WI and WI JITI arms. That's basically just our control group and our intervention group. And then the study has 3 phases, the baseline phase, intervention phase, and sustainability phase. And that comes out to a total of 6 months. And we use smartwatches and smartphones, as well as personalized physical activity goals that are made by our participants to do that and deliver the intervention. So this next slide is just kind of an example of different types of feedback. that our participants have access to when they're in the study. So on the left side, that's a photo of like the Android phone that we use, and it's just an example of how you can see what your physical activity levels look like over the past week. And then the photo of the watch on the right is just a reminder to participate in the web-based intervention program. All right, so then this is just a little bit more about the randomization. So it's designed to send personal messages twice a day, and they're randomized so that the participants either receive a message or no message at each time point. And if they do get a message, it asks them to acknowledge it by interacting with the device. So they'll just hit okay or got it. And then the fortune cookie message is more of like a positive or encouraging message, just to keep everything a little bit more engaging and encouraging. So then these are more examples of different messages on the watch. So like I mentioned, these first two examples on the left here are just giving like feedback about physical activity. And then the third photo is an example of a fortune cookie message. So that's just a fun fact that it serves as like a placeholder for non-goal messages. All right, so our results so far are we have enrolled 105 participants, actually. We enrolled 2 more recently. So we have completed testing about 34% of our goal of 196. We currently have 46% of that number who are active right now, and our attrition rate or dropout rate so far is 18%, which is about average. And then finally, for the discussion, the JIDI system has great potential to improve long-term physical activity by offering feedback that's tailored to each person's real behavior rather than relying on generic recommendations. And this approach helps to ensure that the feedback is timely, relevant, and more actionable. And then finally, the insights from this study can hopefully help other researchers and designers create even more engaging and effective interventions for individuals with disabilities.
Okay, these are some of the references from the research. Again, we are building on a number of other researchers. So here I just gave a few short references that are easily digestible. And please feel free to contact if you need to inquire more about any specific area of research or topics. Feel free to reach out to us. To acknowledge, this is a large endeavor. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants who have helped us collect data. This is the 9th. I just completed my 9 years at Temple University. So all the participants who have volunteered, provided their time to help improve the state of the science or push the frontiers of spinal cord injury research and care. I would like to thank the participants. We have a number of collaborators in the Philadelphia area, including the Corporal Michael J. Crescent's VA Medical Center. That's the Philadelphia VA Medical Center, Jefferson Moss and Maggie Rehabilitation Hospitals, Northeastern University in Boston, University of Alabama at Birmingham, University of South Carolina, University of Michigan. We also work with other local partners such as Good Shepherd Rehabilitation in Allentown, but we did not have any research that we presented here today, but we work with a number of collaborators. And the funding for the second study was given by the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. It's also called the Spinal Cord Injury Research Program. And the R01 study, the NIH R01 study that Rachel presented, is funded by the National Institutes of Health by an R01 grant. These are the Fire Lab members. Again, I'm very glad to have a wonderful team who can make this happen. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me. Here is a flyer for the study that Rachel just presented. If you or anyone you think might be interested, please feel free to reach out to us. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the share and open the virtual platform or the Zoom for questions and answers that people might have.